Hello, this is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. I hope you enjoyed my last video where I talked about questions we should ask ourselves when deciding, is a food forest something we really want to install on our property? And today's video is a follow-up video to that. It is asking the question, what should I grow in my food forest? So there's a few things I think we should really consider when deciding what to plant in our food forest. They may be things that you have thought of that seem kind of no-brainer to you, and they may be things that you hadn't really considered. So I hope that this will be helpful for you. I hope that it will get you thinking more in depth about the specific plants that you want to choose for your food forest now that you have decided to grow one. Number one, what grows well in your landscape? What is climate appropriate for you? For me, I'm in a temperate climate in zone 8B. Folks are often surprised, oh my gosh, way up there in Oregon, you're in 8B. I'm in Texas and I'm in 8B. 8B specifically means your first and last frost date. It is not speaking about how hot it gets in the summer, when the rains are falling, etc., etc. We have a long growing season here. It is cool. It is about 9 months of constant rain and 3 months of no rain at all. And that really influences how I am going to design my system. What trees can do well under those conditions? What trees am I planting that can tolerate potentially temperatures down to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, usually more like 20 degrees Fahrenheit, but occasionally 15. And temperatures in the summer that typically reach into the 90s and sometimes over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. What can tolerate the high level of rain that I have in the winter and the fact that we have very clay soil here? So what grows well for you? You can look to nature. You can look to other food foresters in your area. I would say just because something does well for me here in zone 8B, that doesn't mean it will do well in your zone 8B. Look to your local permaculture groups, your local gardening groups, and see what does well here. What disease pressures are common? For example, one of the first trees I put in was an apricot tree because they are my favorite tree fruit. I love to make apricot jam. I love to dehydrate them. I love to bake with apricots. They do not do well in a rainy, wet climate. They get shot hole disease pretty much universally and also tend to have a number of other fungal diseases and bacterial canker that they're very prone to. I did not choose wisely initially. I picked something that I enjoyed eating, but that was not climate appropriate. So I swapped it out for 2 fig trees, which are disease-free, pest-free, and produce tons of figs for me every year. So when we're looking at what grows well in your climate, what is resistant to the endemic diseases in your area, what is resistant to pests that tend to be an issue for you. Number 2, what do you like to eat? A big problem I see with a lot of permaculture folks is that they plant things that are trendy permaculture plants, and they don't actually like the yield that comes off of that plant. For example, way back, like probably 15 years ago, I think I was pregnant with my 3rd kid. We went to a permaculture potluck and someone had a whole big bowl of cornelian cherries, which are basically a kind of dogwood fruit. And everyone was talking about, oh my gosh, yes, you need to put these in your permaculture design. They're so permaculture-y. They're just one of those like those unusual, I was gonna say avant-garde, but they're not really avant-garde, but like those permaculture fruits that you can't buy in the store and you should definitely get it. And then you're like, that's a permaculture plant, right? They're disgusting. I hate them. I think they taste terrible. I don't enjoy them at all. I knew once we bought our home and we started our permaculture garden, I was not gonna grow cornelian cherries. I don't care how permaculture-y they are. I don't wanna eat them, so I'm not gonna grow them. Now, I don't wanna put you off of them. If you enjoy them, taste them and see what you think. So what do you like to eat? Now that you've established what grows well in your area, what do you like to eat? You need to be able to utilize the yield coming out of your food forest. And when you're growing a lot of tree crops, those tend to be fruits and nuts, right? It can be fiber. It can be things like my hazel here that we use for a harvest of wood. So I can totally use it for the harvest of wood stakes as well as the nuts. But predominantly, folks are growing a lot of fruit in their food forest. You may grow leguminous trees like a mesquite tree, depending on where you are. But when you're looking at fruit, a lot of the things that permaculturists grow have unusual flavors and are things that are not available in the store. It's one of the things I love about having a food forest is that I can grow things I cannot buy. Either the whole fruit itself, the entire species, like my pawpaw, Asimina triloba, or something that's common like apples. I grow varieties of apples you cannot get in the store. Crow just flew over and freaked out all my poultry. So find someone who's growing it and taste it if it's unusual and you don't know whether you're gonna like it or not. Don't put in a tree that you're gonna wait 5 or 7 years for it to come into production, only to find out that you don't like the taste of the food and you can't use it. That's not good permaculture design. Folks ask me all the time about growing pawpaws. Please taste them before you put them in. I absolutely love them, but I ate them growing up. My husband can't stand them. They're like his Cornelian cherry. He doesn't want to eat pawpaws. If you're growing something that is not something your palate has acclimated to, make sure it is something you either can learn to love and utilize or that you like from the get-go. And that leads me to my third criteria for deciding what you're going to grow in your food forest. What can my community use? Odds are, if you are one nuclear family or you are 1 or 2 individuals living on a property, you are going to grow far more than you can eat. So when we're following the permaculture ethic of share the surplus, what does that look like? Are we growing things our community can use? Maybe to give away? Maybe you're planning on selling it in a farmer's market stand. Maybe you're using that to obtain a yield of an income. So you need to pick things that your customers will want or that folks in your community will utilize if you give it away for free. Along with that, I would consider growing things that maybe your neighbors don't grow and swap it. A neighbor of mine grows Asian pears and we tend to swap for pumpkins for Asian pears because I grow a lot of pumpkins. So what can your community use either for free, either as a market crop that you can sell or something you can use to swap and barter? When deciding your permaculture design for your food forest, please think about those 3 elements. I think they're a great 3 first questions to ask yourself before you go look through the plant catalogs and just circle everything and make a huge big order. Those first 3 questions are the starting point to evaluating what you're going to put in your food forest. They aren't the end all and be all. You can go down a rabbit hole of nuances of why or why not something is appropriate for your food forest. But if you skip those first 3, you're missing out on the big evaluators that you can use to create a successful food forest where the resources that come out of your garden will be ones that benefit you, benefit your household, and benefit the community. Thank you for watching today. Please check out my details down below on how you can support this channel. I will be back very soon from my permaculture garden here in Zone 8B in Portland, Oregon. Thanks.